What's up, everybody? It's your boy Hawk, and welcome back to another video, what should be a shorter video. As most of us know by now, TNT lost the rights to have NBA broadcast. Turner Sports is no longer an NBA partner after this upcoming 2024-2025 season. At first, I didn't think I was going to make a video about this, but I really couldn't shake it. I've been watching basketball on TNT my entire life. Not in my entire life of me watching it. I've been watching it basketball on there probably since like 2007. But it's been on TNT my entire life. It was a big shock to NBA fandom that the basketball is no longer going to be on TNT. Most people have fond memories of that show. I have tons of memories staying up to 1, 2 in the morning because I'm on the East Coast, watching those doubleheaders on Thursday nights and staying up to watch the post-game Inside the NBA show and really enjoying it. And even before we started hearing the rumblings of NBA and TNT potentially splitting, I had recently started going on YouTube and just rewatching some greatest moments, watching some highlights, getting some laughs, and enjoying what that show was and is. And by the time the decision came out, honestly, I wasn't too upset that TNT lost the NBA. And I'll tell you why. So like I said, growing up, I loved Inside the NBA. I loved watching who he played for. I loved hearing Kenny, Shaq, Chuck talk about basketball. I loved when they would have Chris Webber on it as a guest from time to time. Like, I really enjoyed TNT basketball. I started to love the Tuesday nights, adding Jamal Crawford and Candace Parker over the last couple of years. But after I graduated high school, after I graduated college, and as I've gotten older and started just, I don't know if I'll say watching basketball more intently or just looking at basketball differently, or I'll say what it is, looking for different substance or more substance, or at least what I consider more substance from my NBA content outside of the games, things that I watch that isn't just what happens on the court in those 48 minutes. I'm looking for someone to either give an actual insight from a player's perspective, maybe tell a former player telling a story of their time in the NBA, or someone breaking down the film of what's happening or explaining what is happening on the court. As I've gotten older, I'm less interested in the hot takes and the narratives, the storylines. They're still there. They can be entertaining, but that's not my main focus anymore, personally. So with that in mind, taking a step back and looking at from a high level what Inside the NBA is, when you just type in Inside the NBA best moments, what usually comes up as the best moments are either the jokes, maybe Charles and Shaq going off about something that has nothing to do with basketball. Anyway, one of my favorite moments is Shaq trying to explain that you only need to put $20 in the tank whenever it comes to half, and that's all you'll ever have to do. If you've never seen that clip, go watch it. It's hilarious. And it's a great moment, but it's got nothing to do with basketball. Or Chuck talking about the women of San Antonio. Once again, hilarious, misogynistic and sexist, but has nothing to do with basketball. Last season, Adam Silver went on Old Man in the Three, JJ Redick's former podcast, explaining what he wants the future of NBA to be, what he wants the future of the NBA, I'll say, product to be. That means what's on the court, the presentation, the broadcast, what he wants the NBA as a product to be. And he compared it to the NFL and their product, and how when you're watching an NFL game, and no, it's not apples and apples, it's not a direct one-to-one comparison, but when you're watching an NFL game, in between the plays or in halftime, they're doing really intensive breakdowns of what you're seeing on the court. They're showing what route this guy did and where the break in the defense was, of how that 80-yard bomb broke through, things like that. And for me, someone who, like most of y'all know, I only watch Eagles games, and once basketball season started, I fall off even on the Eagles games. That's helpful for me. So I think Adam Silver is trying to push the NBA more in that direction. Still keep it entertaining, but if you ask me, I think the entertainment should be the sport itself, not necessarily the antics around it. And I think TNT tried to do an effort to do more of that analytical, the basketball being the focus to an extent, with the main example being Kenny when he runs into the board at the end of the games during halftime and breaking down usually just one play or one moment. And like I said, I get it. It's not the same when comparing to the NFL, where there's so much stoppage time in between plays in NFL, and they have time to maybe run a quick 10-second, 15-second, 20-second, in-studio thing to show off something. They don't have that opportunity in the NBA. I mean, you cut out a couple of commercials, or the commercials that are running during the game with all these timeouts. Maybe you could. Maybe that's the balance you're looking for. But I just feel as a product, TNT as a presentation, at the very least in their halftime and their end of game shows, got away from the sport of basketball. And with the Olympics recently finishing up and NBC being the host broadcast for Team USA and those basketball games, Dwayne Wade and Noah Eagle calling those games. I think most fans, especially myself, felt a bigger emphasis on the basketball product when watching those games. They were talking about what was happening on the court. They weren't talking about what's happening around the league, because there wasn't anything happening around the league. It was just the Olympics. For those 2-3 weeks, it was just Olympic basketball. There were no trades to talk about, no contract negotiations, no coaching issues, no disgruntled players. I mean, there might have been a little bit of those last two things, but I think there was this dedicated focus or intentional focus, I'll say, on focusing on the product on the court. Honestly, probably because they knew it was so special as fans, and even Dwayne Wade and Noah Eagle calling the games, they knew how special it was that we were seeing the players that we were seeing. Probably the last time we'll see them play together: KD, Wade, Steph, those guys, and the rest of Team USA for that matter. So while no, it's not a direct comparison of the broadcast we got from the Olympics to what we typically get from TNT, because we have all that other stuff surrounding the league that the TNT broadcast has to cover, it was refreshing, and I think a lot of people enjoyed getting a very basketball, the game being the center of the presentation. And I think it helped that Dwayne Wade's a recently retired guy. Dwayne Wade's a guy who most people my age and maybe like 5-10 years younger grew up watching. We saw him in his prime, and he happens to be arguably third best shooting guard of all time, fourth best at worst, depending on Harden and yada yada, which how you see it. He's the third best to me, but that's a conversation for a different day. My point is, we have an all-time great, a recent all-time great who has a passion for the game, who can talk about the game well at a high level, who has connections with the players who are currently on the court, and has some insight to how some of these, not all, because a lot of his draft class and people he played with in his prime are retired and not in the league, but a decent amount, a couple of those guys he's played with or played against on the highest levels, and we got to see him share and hear him share some of that insight that he has, and it was refreshing. Because no offense to the TNT guys, I love those guys. Like I said, I grew up with these guys, but a decent amount of the broadcast team feels like an older generation. Reggie Miller, great player. Like top, great player, but older. Not necessarily the same connection from me, a viewer standpoint, when I hear his voice, like, oh yeah, I know Reggie was cold, but I didn't see him firsthand be cold. Stan Van Gundy, I loved him as a coach, a huge Orlando Magic fan back in the day when he was the coach of the Dwight Howard Magic, but that was years ago. Greg Anthony, Grant Hill, keep it a bean, never really saw them play live, at least. Went back, did my homework, know they were great, but I don't have that same connection. Now, like I said before, they tried to add some new blood with Jamal Crawford, Candace Parker. I like some of the insight that they bring to it, for sure. But it's just TNT, to me, started to feel a little older. And I personally am excited for something new. Nervous, for sure. For sure, I'm nervous, because it could just, you get a new deal, we go to turn on that first game either on Amazon or NBC, and we're like, what is this? It's definitely a possibility, but I'm excited for something new. Ultimately, it is a little bittersweet. I will do my best and to watch as much of the last year of TNT basketball that I can, and really enjoy Chuck, Shaq, Kenny, and Ernie all together for what might be the last time. There are rumors and been reports that TNT might be trying to countersue the NBA because they felt like maybe they were negotiating without good faith, and we'll leave all that for the courts and the experts to figure out, and if something comes from it, we'll maybe revisit it and talk about that then. But I'm excited for something new. I'm going to enjoy the last year of TNT basketball, but I can truthfully say I'm also really excited to see something new, because I think it was time. I'm curious what you think. I'm curious if you're my age, 30-ish, late 20s, early 30s, do you still stay up and watch Inside the NBA after a doubleheader on Thursday? When I was younger, yeah, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was super entertaining. Now, I don't. One, because I got to get up for work in the morning, and the games are already crazy late on the West Coast, me living on the East Coast. But two, I don't feel like I'm ever going to gain anything from watching Inside the NBA. It might be some funny moments, it might be some jokes, a little who he play for, a little Shaq to the Fool, but I can see that on Twitter the next morning in a 30-second clip. I don't need to stay up late for it. I'm curious if that's a me issue because I'm old. So maybe if you're younger and watching this, do you stay up and still watch Inside the NBA after a doubleheader on a Thursday night? Or do you also not watch it because you don't feel like you're going to get anything from it from a basketball fan standpoint? Or maybe I'm overthinking and I'm just too much of a nerd for it. I don't know. As always, if you made it this far, you're a real one. We'll appreciate a like if you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out.